Welcome to the Verdict Zone. Today's case is an emotional excavation we're calling the unspoken accusation. This isn't a simple story of a rebellious teenager acting out. It's the complex, painful tale of a 16-year-old boy whose childhood was shattered by his mother's affair, and the devastatingly symbolic gift that forced a hidden, festering wound into the open for everyone to see. Our story follows a young man who, at the tender age of 10, watched his family unit dissolve. His mother had an affair, left his father, and began a new life with a new man. Over the next 6 years, contact between mother and son was minimal, often strained. He saw her, but he didn't really connect with her, and underneath the surface of forced politeness, a deep well of resentment simmered. He felt abandoned, replaced, and his pain was never truly addressed. The situation reached a breaking point during a forced stay at her home. It was her wedding anniversary with her new husband, and the house was filled with the sounds of a happy family, a family he felt no part of. He was an outsider, relegated to the guest room, listening to the laughter and joy downstairs. His silent protest began subtly. He flinched away from her hugs, found excuses to avoid family activities, and spent most of his time isolated, staring at his screen. His anger was a quiet, constant hum in the background of their celebration. Then came the moment of confrontation, not with a shout, but with a gift. He presented his mother with a copy of the classic novel, Anna Karenina. For those unfamiliar, it is a famous story about a high society woman who abandons her husband and son for a passionate affair. The meaning was unmistakable. It wasn't just a book. It was a mirror held up to her past, a meticulously chosen symbol of his enduring pain. For the next 15 minutes, we're going to navigate this emotional minefield together. We will break down every layer of this conflict, looking at it from all sides to understand the complex human emotions at play. Let's first dissect the gift itself. This wasn't a random act of teenage cruelty. It was a carefully constructed message, layered with meaning. First, you have the plot itself. The direct parallel between Anna Karenina abandoning her family for a lover and his own mother's story is the most obvious and brutal layer. He was essentially telling her, "This is you. This is what you did to me." He chose a story that mirrored his trauma perfectly. Second, the medium. His mother had been a literature major in college. He didn't give her a movie or a song. He gave her a book, something from a world she understood and valued. This shows a level of thoughtfulness that makes the act even more profound. He was speaking to her in a language he knew she would comprehend, using her own intellectual passion as a weapon. Third, the timing. He didn't give her this book on a random Tuesday. He chose her wedding anniversary, a day dedicated to celebrating the very relationship that broke apart his original family. It was a deliberate, targeted strike designed to disrupt her happiness and remind her of the cost of her new life. He was ensuring his pain was present at her celebration. And finally, the intent. What was he really trying to achieve? Was it purely to hurt her? From his perspective, likely not. This was a desperate, nonverbal cry for acknowledgement. After years of silence, a feeling like his pain was invisible, this was his way of screaming, "Do you see what you did? Do you understand how much it hurt me?" He couldn't find the words, so he used a 900-page novel to speak for him. It was a desperate attempt to force a conversation that had been avoided for 6 long years. Now, let's turn the tables and analyze this from the mother's perspective. Imagine you're her. You've built a new life. You might be carrying a heavy burden of guilt every single day, a quiet sorrow for the pain you caused. You've tried, perhaps clumsily, to maintain a relationship with your son. You invite him to your home for a happy occasion, hoping, maybe, for a moment of connection, a sign that things can heal. And then, in front of your new husband, your new family, your son hands you this gift. It's not just a book. It's a public indictment. It's a judgment. For her, this gift was likely perceived as a cruel, calculated act of revenge. It took a private, painful past and made it a spectacle on a day that was supposed to be about joy and the future. It wasn't a cry for help, it was a public shaming. The very guilt she may grapple with daily was thrown back in her face, confirming her worst fears, that her son would never forgive her, that she was, in his eyes, a villain. And what about the stepfather? His reaction was one of anger and disbelief. He saw a boy deliberately trying to ruin his wife's happiness. He ordered the boy to pack his bags and called his father to come get him. From his point of view, this was an unacceptable attack on his wife and their marriage. He wasn't there for the original drama 6 years ago. He only sees the current act of aggression. His intervention, while perhaps intended to protect his wife, completed the total communication breakdown. Instead of a difficult conversation, there was only expulsion and further alienation. The family didn't just crack, it shattered. To help us understand the deep psychological currents running through this story, we spoke with a child psychologist who specializes in the impact of divorce and parental infidelity. She explained that children whose families are broken by an affair often carry a unique and heavy psychological weight. It's not just the sadness of the divorce. It's a profound sense of betrayal and a fractured sense of trust that can last a lifetime. They often feel caught in the middle, and their grief gets buried under the adult's drama. When that grief isn't given a healthy outlet, it can fester and mutate into resentment and anger. Our expert pointed out that teenagers, in particular, struggle to articulate these complex emotions. They lack the emotional vocabulary and maturity to say, "Mom, when you left, it made me feel worthless and abandoned. And I'm still struggling with that." Instead, they resort to actions. Symbolic acts, like giving the book, are incredibly powerful because they condense years of unspoken pain into a single, undeniable gesture. The boy was trying to make his invisible wound visible. However, our expert also warned that these acts, while born from real pain, are often destructive. They are a form of attack, not communication. They put the other person on the defensive and slam the door on any possibility of true dialogue and healing. The act of giving the book guaranteed a defensive reaction. It was designed to provoke, not to reconcile. A healthy expression of grief would involve seeking a safe space to talk, perhaps with a therapist or a trusted family member, to learn how to express the pain in words that invite understanding rather than retaliation. The son's action, while understandable from a place of deep hurt, likely destroyed the very bridge to his mother he was so desperately trying to get her to cross. He wanted her to see him, but his method ensured she would only turn away. This heartbreaking scenario forces us to confront a difficult moral question. Does the deep, enduring pain caused by a parent's past betrayal justify using psychological or symbolic retaliation against them? Is it fair game, especially if the goal is less about causing new hurt and more about finally being seen and acknowledged? Where do we draw the line between a desperate plea for recognition and a cruel act of revenge? These are the kinds of family ruptures that demand nuanced understanding, not simple judgments. There are no easy villains or heroes here, only deeply wounded people acting from a place of pain. If you believe in dissecting the gray areas of hurt, guilt, and accountability within families, then you need to join our deliberation. Subscribe and hit that notification bell for the Verdict Zone. We provide the forum for judgments that seek healing, not just blame. We work to understand the full story behind the conflict. Subscribe now.